Hi guys, good day guys. Okay, welcome to today's class. Welcome to today's lecture. We'll be talking about the introduction to CSS and box model. So this will be our first class on CSS, and I'll try as much as possible to make it very easy and understandable. Okay, so we'll be moving. Introduction to CSS. So CSS, you must have been hearing about HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and all those. And you keep wondering what's this CSS actually about? Okay, so CSS, the full meaning of CSS is cascading style sheet. Okay, let me just go to the wishes because the full meaning of CSS is cascading style sheet. And CSS, it's why is this? Okay, yeah, cascading style sheets. Just like HTML is more like a framework. Okay, the body has like a framework. Your skeleton is your framework, and your body now is just like the CSS. In that the framework just looks like if you see a skeleton of someone, like someone that has just skeleton without body, like without the flesh and all those, it doesn't look good in the eye. So that's just the relationship between HTML and CSS. HTML is just like the framework, the skeleton of a HTML file. But now the CSS is actually what gives the HTML the beauty. Like it used to style the HTML basically. So that's what makes a HTML document to look good. That's what makes a website to look good. If you see a website, there's no way you can create a website without adding styling, because the CSS is just used to style the HTML to look very terrible and doesn't look good to the eye. So CSS is usually used to style the HTML. So yeah, that's just the intro to the HTML CSS. I mean, CSS, is used to format the layout of a web page. With CSS, you can control the color, the font, the size of the text, the spacing between the elements, how they are positioned. With CSS, you can literally just like do basically most things. So the word cascading in CSS, because remember the full meaning of CSS is cascading style sheets. So the word cascading means that the style applied to a parent element in a CSS file, the HTML file, will also apply to all the children elements within the parent. That's, for example, now. Okay, let me just give an instance. Uh, Okay, I'll get to that actually. I'll get to that. Okay, so I've already created my file, which I already taught in the first class how to like create the file, open it with VS Code and all. So this is my index. This is my index file. So now to create a CSS file, the same way I did this index.html, I'll click on this new file. I'll click on it. I'll now write style.css is a CSS file, so it has to end with the CSS. All this one we've been doing all this while has been HTML is HTML document. That's why it ends with .html. So this one I'll write style.css and enter, and now my style.css this thing has been created. Okay, so we'll get to the linking, how to link CSS and all. But in my body, let me just like write like a statement, like a sentence, so that we could navigate how the CSS works. Okay, let me just write like H1. We know what H1 means. H1 is like header, your header, the one of the headers. We have H1 to H6, so this is one of the headers. So I'll just write maybe what sentence is that right now? I keep using she goes to school. I don't know. Let me think. Uh, I want water. Okay. Or I want to eat. Okay, I want to eat. Let me just use that statement. I want to eat. So that's my content. That's my content now. So for CSS, we have different kinds of styling in CSS. We have let me Yeah, there are different ways you can style HTML documents using CSS. We have the inline styling, the internal styling, and the external styling. Now, the inline styling, for that one, you use the style attributes inside the HTML elements. For the internal styling, we use the style elements in the head section, and the external styling, we use the link elements to link an external CSS file. I would actually explain all of them individually. So, but the most common way to add CSS is usually external CSS. That one most times, if you want to do like create like a very big website and all, you use the external CSS, because with external CSS you'll be able to like um link a lot of pages. You'll be able to style like a lot of pages, like a larger listen. But you could actually use inline or internal. But the bad thing about it is that if you use an inline style and you still go and use external styling, the external one would override the inline or the internal styling. So like more like the external is like the ultimate. Okay, so we'll take them individually. The first one is inline CSS. So we have that an inline CSS is used to apply a unique style to a single HTML element. It's used to apply a unique style to a single HTML element. Now, an inline style, remember, we said it uses the style attributes of an HTML element. Okay, so let me give, for instance, I've already written a sentence. So this is my sentence now. I want to eat. Okay. So now for inline styling now for CSS, what I'm just trying to say is that you use the style attribute. So remember where we usually add our attributes is usually at the opening tag. So I'll write space. Then I'll now write my style. Remember for inline styling, you use style attribute. Style equal to, it brings out quotation mark. Then I'll now write, okay, I want to change the color of this. I want to it to red. So I'll now write color, um, color, red. Then I mean, after writing the red, you always put what do they even call that stuff? You always put a semicolon, yeah, a semicolon after it, else it won't work. So style equal to color, um, colon, then you write the color you want to. I just use red. It can be any color, red, green, any color at all. Then it should always come with, after the color, you should always have a a a semicolon. Yeah, a semicolon. Okay, so now let's see what it looks like. Let me open my live server. So see, open with live server. So you can see that I want to eat now is red. You can see that the style like has been applied to it. I want to eat is red. Okay, so let me show you what it was before I added the style. Before adding the style, you see that it's just normal. It's just there. So without the style now, let's see what it looks like. It's this is the default color black. I want to eat. So when I now added I want the style and change the color from black to red, it's now changed. So that's what we could use CSS to change the color, the font size, the font family, anything at all, to add paddings, to add margins, to add borders, different different things. So now color, we use color to change the color of the text. Then there's a difference between color and background color. Color now, you saw that, okay, I'm still on inline styling. Okay, let me write the heading so that inline styling, inline styling. Sorry. Okay, so now I want the style. Remember, it's usually you use the style attribute. Style equal to, okay, now the style I already use color and it changed the color of the text. But now I don't want to change the color of the text. I want to just change the color of the background. So of the background of where this I want to eat is not the whole body background. But if I want to do that, I'll still show you that too. So now instead of you writing just color, when you just write only color, it changes only the color of the text. But now I'll write background color, background color, background color. Okay, let me see. I want to make my background color blue. Remember, after writing the blue, you should always have like a semicolon. Don't forget to put your semicolon. So now on the background color, you see that this I want to, it is not the text that is going to change. It's not the color of the text that is going to change, but it's not the color of the text that is going to change, but the color of the background. So let's see. Let's see what. So can you see that the background of this I want to eat has changed to blue, but the color of the text remains the same. It's still black. It not changed to blue because I used background color and not color. So that's the difference between color and background color. Background color, just normal color changes the text, the color of the text. While background color, background obviously changes the background of the text, the background of the text. Okay, so let's move. We could always um let me see. I want to change the font size. The font size is like the size of the text. Font size is like changing the size of the text. So you can, for this inline styling, you can add your, if it's still this I want to eat, I want to style. Okay, let me just write another sentence and style that one. It mustn't be just that one. Uh uh the baby is crying or something. I don't know. I just baby is crying. Okay. So now style, still my inline styling, style equal to, I want to change the font size now. Okay, let's even open this and let me, before I do this, let's open it to see how what this just looks like. Baby is crying. So this is the baby is crying, and see the size of the font. You see how small it is. So now if I want to make it bigger or smaller, so now let me change the font size. I can even change the color. I can do anything I want to do with CSS. That's the beauty of CSS. So now the style. Remember, you always use the style attribute when you want to when you want to style. So our the style, then the font size. I want to change the font size. So that's our right font size. Colon, then let me see, 10 px or 20 let me use 20 px, 20 px, that's 20 pixels. It can be m, it can be rem, like the unit can be px, can be m, can be rem, and all those, but that's not our concern for today, Sha. So I'm just using px. 20 px, font size 20 px. Now you see the difference. Now it's going to be larger than what it was. See that it's a bit bigger, or wait, let me use something much larger, much larger. Let me use 50 px. I think that should be more. So 50 px, see how large it is. The baby is crying. Then if I say, okay, I want to change this, um remember, font size is to change the font, that's the text, to make it either larger or make it smaller. Okay, now I've made it larger. I can make it smaller. Maybe I'll just make it like 3 px is too small. Maybe 10 px. 10 px. So this is what 10 px is like. Look at how tiny it is. So uh let's say I want to, okay, that's for font size. Now let me say I want to change not just the font size. I can actually still style something else here. Not just the font size, but um let's say the, what other things could I even do with those things? We've changed the color, we've changed the background color, we've changed font size, font weight. Font weight. Let's see the difference now between font weight and font size. Let's say I want to make my font weight to be like 600 or 700 or anything at all. For font weight is in hundreds, 100 to, I think 600 is the highest. So okay, let me show you the outcome. Then I'll now tell you the difference between font size and font weight. So see now, this is still, remember the size is still 10, but I changed the font weight to 600. So now the difference between font size and font weight is that font size, like is light. Like when you write it, it's just like it's light. But when you increase the font weight of something, it's more like it makes it bolder. It makes it bolder, look and bolder, as if you write it like you wrote it like twice or something. Like it makes it bolder. I don't know if okay. Let me give instances with different font weights so that will be more explanatory. Okay, let me just use a name. May what name do I use now? Okay, let me just use Bridget. Bridget. Okay. Now let me style it with my font weight with the various font weights so that you see their differences. Font weight. I will start with 100. Let me just copy and paste this. Then I'll change different. Okay. I'll change this to 200. The next one 300 because I want to show you guys the difference between the various font weights. Like font weight, what it does. 400, 500, 600. So let's just see the differences. You just tell the differences now. So let me open this. So I don't know if you guys can see all these bridges I wrote here. If you can notice the differences. If from here you can see this first one is light, like it's not solid. I don't know how to put it. It's not solid. Then see this one of 600. This last one is the one of font weight of 600. See the difference between the one of 600 and the one of 100. The one of 600, you can see how dark it is. Like it has more weight. That's why it's font weight. It has more weight. It's more solid. I guess you understand, Sha. Okay. So that's for font weight. Okay, I'll just remove this. Let me not have so much. Oh, maybe I'll just leave it here. Okay, so we are still on inline styling. So that's basically all for inline styling. Inline styling, you style the particular for inline styling now. This for this H1 now, any style I write within H1 is going to be only for H1. It will not affect P, all these P tags, it will not affect them. Any style I write for P is only going to be for P and all those. So it just used to style a particular like the stuff. So let's move to the next one, which is the internal styling. Internal styling. Okay. So uh internal styling. Okay, now for internal styling now, let's go here. For internal CSS, so we have that it's used to define a style for a single HTML page. For a single HTML page. Now, this internal styling now, you do it in the head section of a HTML page, still using the style element. Okay, so this is my HTML page now. Now, remember for this inline styling, I did it inside the tag, like inside the particular one I wanted to style. But now for internal styling, you do your styling under the head section. This is your head, Abby. Sorry, not your head, but like this is the head section of the element. This is the head. This is where the head ended. So what I can do, I'll just come here and now put my style. Abby? Yeah. And now put my style. That's for my internal styling. I'm sorry, we use the style element, not just the style element. So what I'll do, okay, just like this one now. This is an example of an internal styling. This let me still repeat that. Well, please let me bring in my clothes. Okay, we use the style, sorry, not the style. The style this thing element. Okay, now and it should be in under the head section. You see this? It's inside within embedded in the head section. This is where the head started. This is where it's ending. So the style now. Okay, so any style I want to do now, let me just write internal styling. I'll comment it out so that it doesn't affect it. Internal styling. So okay, so this is my internal styling. Then I'll be doing all my styles here, like within this style attribute. This is my internal styling. Let me get this down. Okay, so let's give for instance, still let me give a different distance. Um, let me okay, this is a division. This div means a division. And in this div, I have both a header, a paragraph. Let me, okay, my H1 or H2 or anyone at all. Remember the difference, it depends on what you want. Okay, let me just use H1. H1, we have the, in the H1 now, I want to say, uh, I keep thinking of what to write because what sentence to make. Okay, she goes to school. Let's just use that. She goes to school. Then I have a P tag, that's like a paragraph. I still have like a paragraph down, still within my div. P tag, where I will write uh Bridget is a girl. Sorry, oh. I'm just like using any sentence at all. Just to rain heavily here, my god. I don't know if you guys can still hear me. Hopefully you can still hear me. It just started raining very heavily over here. Okay, so Bridget is a girl. Okay, so now for my internal styling, what I'll do, I'll go to, remember this is where I'll be styling my internal styling. So remember in that div I just did. So let me give this a class. Let me give this a class. Or I don't necessarily need to give it a class. I could just call out div H1 and div P and style it. Div H1. That's the H1 of the div. That's what that div H1 means. The H1 of the div. Then I'll now style it. I could say maybe I could style it. I could change the color of the div, of the H1 of the div, as of the head of the div. I could change the color maybe to blue. Remember to always put your semicolon after you write your stuff. So let's see. That div H1 now means this division, the H1 of it. Because if I just write H1, there's another H1 in this document. So they will now style the two H1s. So which of the particular H1s you get? That's why I wrote div H1 to specify that it's this particular H1 I'm talking about. Because if I just write H1, there's also H1 here. That means whatever that was here, if I just write H1 and I style H1 generally, it's going to affect this one too because this is also a H1. This is also a H1. So let's see. So I'm fine. So this div H1, that's she goes to school. You can see that the color has changed to blue. The color has been changed to blue. So that's how you do your internal styling. Okay. So now let's try to style the paragraph. That's this P tag now. I'll just do div P. That's Bridget is a girl. Remember all your stylings have to be under inside this style tag. So div P now. I don't div P. Okay, let me say I want to change the color of my paragraph to blue violet. Then you see what happens here now. You can see the color of this thing has changed to blue violet. It has changed. I want to increase the font size so that you'll be seeing it clearly. I want to increase the font size. I can just do it here also. I'll just write font size, let's say 40 px. So you see that it's going to increase. See, it, Bridget is a girl. You can see it that the font size has increased. Now let's say I want to change the background now of this particular P tag. This Bridget is a girl. I want to change the background of only this Bridget is a girl. I would I would just still come here. The div P background color. I'll change it to, let's say, which color now will I choose? Let's say mm, yellow. I'll change my background color to yellow. Yellow. You can see this now. That anything I'm doing is just affecting only that particular element that I called out. Remember, from here now, it's only the P tag that I change the color to this, the font size, the background color, and all. So this is how inline styling works actually. This is how inline styling works. Then if you don't want to use this div stuff, you could just give it a class like we did that last time. I could just decide to give this a class now, this H1. I could give it a class. Maybe a class of um just write maybe just you can name your class anything but something relating to what you're doing. A class of let's say header, or just maybe head. Let me just write head. Now I can now decide to still style this class now. Instead of writing this div h1 now, I could just change it to class, to my class name, which is head. I remember for class it always starts with a full stop. It always starts with a full stop. So full stop, then the name of my class, which is head, that I named my class. You see that it will still be the same thing now. Just watch out. So you see, she goes to school. It's blue because in my class I named the class for that particular H1 tag head, and I'm now styling the head like the class. So it's going to style this she goes to school because that's the class that is contained in the H1. So that's basically for inline internal styling. Now the last one is external styling. External styling. External styling. Okay, now for external styling, that one now I told you now is like the ultimate. Like if I do all this my inline styling and my internal styling, and I now decide to go and do external styling, that will now override it. It will just change everything. Anything I'm doing in my external is just what will now like be the ultimate. So for external styling, you have like this style.css I created here. That's where you do your external styling. Remember, you click on this new file, then write style.css and enter. So it's now I'll open this. You can see it's empty. This thing is empty. Then this is where I'll be doing my external styling. Remember, external styling should be in an external file, not within, if it was internal, it will still be inside my index, like inside my HTML file. But now since it's external, I'm now doing it in an external file, which is this style.css. Okay, now let's see external styling, external CSS. It said it's used to define the style for many HTML pages. To use an external style sheet, add a link to it in the head section of each HTML page. Okay, so now let me show you something. Let me show you guys something. If I okay, normally this style that this external this thing, there is a constant every this thing you have to there's a default mode for every file. Just write like star um open your this thing padding. You always change your padding to zero and your margin to zero. Padding to zero and your margin to zero. Just like a default kind of something to like before you start working. Always just add this stuff. before you start working. Okay, so now you see that, okay, let's say, let me write a sentence. Let's say a maybe H3 tag or something. And I want to write, today is Sunday. Today is Sunday. So now this today is Sunday now. Let me give it a class. Let me give it a class so that I can style the class. That's the class I'll be styling in my external file. Let me give it a class of maybe sun. Let me just give it a class of sun. Remember, your class name can be anything. You can give it any name you want. But I choose to give mine sun. Yeah. So now for this external styling, um I'll be going to my style.css to style it now. Remember, I have to link it first. Okay. Let me remember you write a full stop before your class name. My class name was Son. And you now put your curly brackets, enter. Then let me say I want to change that this thing. I want to change the color to orange. I want to change the color. That's the color of the text to orange. So you're going to observe something now. You see that. But let me you see that it's I want to first I want to comment out all these ones so that I'll have space. I want to comment out all these ones. Let me just comment them out. Since I'm not using them now, let me just comment out and focus on the external style. Sorry. Okay. So today is Sunday. So now let's see. So we can see today is Sunday here. We can see it, right? This today is Sunday now. We can see it. I commented out all those ones. That's why you can't see them again. So now if I want to style this today is Sunday using external CSS, you know I've already styled it in my external CSS, but it's not reflecting. See, dot sun, this is my class name. And I changed the color to orange. I changed that today is Sunday to orange, but it's not reflecting. Why? Because I have not yet linked it in my index file, in my HTML file. So for external CSS, you have to link it. And where do you link it? Still in this head, this head part now. So I'll be linking it now. I'll link it immediately after my title. I can just click on enter. I can just link it immediately after my title. So the linking this thing is you could just write type link. You just type link to give you all these options. You see link atom, link colon CSS, link five icon, blah blah blah. It's CSS we want to link, right? So we'll just click on this link CSS and it gives us this. It gives us, so you don't have to cram this. You don't have to cram this link rel style sheet href. So what you just type link and you see all those options. So now I named my list in style.css. So my href now is this style.css. My href is this style.css. So which is this. So I've linked it now. So you get, if this thing was maybe home.css, it must not be style. It can be anything.css, but as long as it's a CSS file. If it's home.css, I'll change this my href from style.css to home.css. You get, so it mustn't always be style.css actually. So well, now I've linked it. You see that it's going to reflect now. Remember, the external CSS was not reflecting because I had not yet linked it. But now that I've linked it in my head, it's going to reflect. Now let's see if this thing will change to orange. So we can see today is Sunday. It has changed to orange. What else did you notice? I put that padding 0, margin 0. This today is Sunday was actually somewhere here, somewhere down here. That's it had a margin and it had a padding. But as I put that padding 0 and margin 0, it's now like there's no padding and margin again. Later, I will still explain padding and margin when we get to box model. So our focus now is the linking, the different stylings. So today is Sunday. You can see that the color has changed to orange because I've linked it. I linked my external CSS to my HTML file. So for external CSS to work, you always have to link it. You always have to link it to your HTML file, which is this. You just type link colon CSS and it will give you the option and you just click on it and it gives you this. Well, if you want to cram it, you can cram it. Yeah. So yeah. So that's external CSS. Okay, let me I still want to still style. Maybe I want to change the what I want to there are a lot of things you can do. I want to change the background to blue, background color to blue. You see now that the background color has changed to blue. See the background color. Remember the difference between background color and normal color. Normal color is just changing the color of the text, while background color is changing the color of the background. Okay, so I've changed it to blue. You could just in this style, you can just do anything you want to do at all. Change the font size, just change anything at all that you want to do. Anything at all. Font style, italic. Okay, now I want maybe my font style to be italic instead of block. You know what italic means now. So see now, see the way this writing is. It's no longer like it's now like in italic form. You get so font style changes the style of the font. So I can change the italic. I can change it to anything I want at all. Mm, I can even okay when we get to box model, we'll talk about all those border and margin stuff. Let me not go there yet. Okay, so that's basically all for CSS styling. I guess that's basically the major things you need to know. There's font family, font color. We've done all that. Okay, font family. Yeah. Okay, names. I want to change the font family now. Font family. See, there are many options here. Then later I will also show which I think that was already taught in the last class how to like use Google Fonts, how to link Google Fonts. So font family now I could just choose any of these fonts now. That means I want to go for Arial. This one I want to go for this one. I'll just click on it and see the font family has changed. It's no longer italic. It's no longer how it was before. It has changed to that particular font family I changed it to. So that's basically this is how external CSS works. These are external CSS works. Okay, so the next agenda for today will be box model. Box model. Sorry. Okay, so box model. Okay, so okay, we have that. Let me go to my read me where I wrote the sorry. So if you have any questions or where you're not clarified, you could always ask questions. You could always ask on the WhatsApp group. You could always ask on the YouTube channel. You could just drop your questions and they will be answered. Okay, so box model now. Okay, CSS box model. We have that the box CSS box model is essentially a box that wraps around every HTML element. A box that wraps around every HTML element. It consists of margins, borders, padding, and the actual content. Okay, let me just show you what a box model looks like. Uh, Box model. Okay. Okay, so this is box model. Now, this is like how to I want to explain the box model now. In the box model, the content, which is like what you write, let me say she goes to school now is my content. The content, then after the content, you have the padding. A box model shows the relationship between the content, padding, border, and margin. So I would still explain all those. I'll say explain all those. But the content of the box is where the text or the images or whatever you write appears. Then padding is like an area around the content. The padding is usually transparent. I'll explain better. I'm just like reading out. Then a border that goes around the padding and the content. Then margin clears an area outside the border. So I would explain better. I would explain better. Just okay. So we'll start from okay. Let me write a sentence. Mm, let's say H1. What sentence do I have to write now? Okay. She just made her hair or something. She just made her hair. Made her hair. Okay. So she just made her hair. Sorry. My content. So in the box, see, she just made her hair now is my content. So let me comment all this out so that it doesn't get confusing. She just made her hair. Let's see. Yeah, she just made her hair. So you can see it's now output. She just made her hair. Okay. Then for this, she just made her hair now. This thing. There is an invisible padding. This is the content, right? There's an invisible padding, an invisible margin, um, then border, an invisible border too, which we will make visible when we start styling them. So the box model now, using the box model to explain, this she just made her hair now is the content. Then remember the box model has the padding, the margin, the border, and the content. So now this okay, when I would explain each of them one by one, then so that you have a better understanding. You have a better understanding of it. Okay, so we'll be going to the first this thing of a box model, which is the let me um okay, we'll be talking about the margin, the margin. We'll start with the margin, which is one of the features of like the box model. I'll be talking of the margin. Now we have the CSS margin properties are used to create space around elements outside of any defined borders. With CSS, you have full control over the margins and their properties for that, blah blah blah. Okay, so now for this margin, okay. For this, she just made her hair now. Let's say I want to style this. Let me use an inline styling. I'll be using, should I, yeah, let me use an inline styling for this particular one. Let me say margin now. Remember, when you want to style using inline styling, you write what? You use the style tag or should I just use external styling? Okay, let me just use inline styling, but you know how to work with the external styling now. Oh, Oh, okay. Let me just use external styling. Anyone, you could use anyone you want. I'll be using external styling. So I'll just give this a class name. Let me give it a name here, class name here. Then I now want to style it. Remember, it says external styling. I'll go and style it outside of the document. So remember, dot, since it's a class, dot um hair. Remember my class name was hair. Hair. Then I'll now open my curly bracket. Okay, so I want to style that hair now. I want to change I want to add like a margin to that hair now. Okay. But before that, I'm supposed to explain. Let me explain how the margin and all those works. So we have the margins I used to create space around elements outside of any defined borders. Okay, now For instance, imagine the margin has like four different properties. Like the margin now, we could have the top margin, that's the margin top, the margin right, the margin bottom, and the margin left. Okay, so let me say now I want to apply margin top now in this my star. Remember, the margin has like margin top, margin left, margin bottom, margin right. So I want to, let's say margin top. Let's see what margin looks like. Margin top, sorry. Margin top. My margin top, I want to use like let's say 10 px for my margin top. And let's see what margin looks like. So if you notice, I don't know if you noticed any difference. Remember, I this she just made her hair was up, like there was no space here. But now with margin top, I've created a space up here, margin top, between this edge and this content. So that's what margins are used for, to create a space between the content and the outside of it. Like, so margin top now, with that margin top 10 px, you can see that there's a space here now. If I remove that margin top, you see that there won't be space. Now let me remove the margin top so you see the difference. Let me comment this out. I'll comment. Oh, I didn't mean to. Okay, so I've commented this out now. So you see that that space will no longer be there. So you can see that the space is no longer there again. So that's the function of margin top, to give it a space at the top. So now let me increase my margin top to like maybe 50 px so that you really see the margin top very well. Margin top. So I made it 50 px. So you can see margin top 50 px. Can you see the space here now? 50 px. This is the 50 px. The margin top now like gave it 50 px space from the top. So that's how margin top works. Remember, we say we have margin top, margin right, margin bottom, margin left. Now let's see what margin right looks like. Margin right, if margin top gives the element a space at the top, so what do you think margin right would also do? Margin right obviously would give it a space at the right. Like if you want to create a space at the right. Okay, let's say 50, let me still use 50. But you will not really notice the margin right because this statement I wrote now, eh, there's already like there's no. Okay, let me make it a longer statement. There's already space here now at the right, so you will not really notice the space. So let me make it a longer statement. Let me just use lorem. Lorem is like a default whatever that's usually inside here. So let me, instead of this she just made her here, let me use lorem, something longer, so that you really notice the margin right stuff. So now um look at it now, that our margin top is still there, you can see the space. And now can you notice, have you noticed this space also here? Why didn't this thing continue going and going like to the end of this? Because of the margin right I put here. That's why this thing did not reach the right top, did not reach this end, because I created a space. That's using the margin right, I created a space between the element and the the outside of it. Okay, so now let me do margin left. Let me do margin left. You see what margin left will be like, what it will look like. Margin left. Or before that, let's start margin bottom. Okay, let me just do margin left first. Margin left. Let me just the statutory is not 50 px. Okay, let me use 30 px. You could use any value at all. I was just using 50 px. So margin left. Now you remember there was no space at the left though. But now let's see what's going to happen. You see, I gave it a margin left of 30 px. That's why you can see this space here. That's why you can actually see this space here. So these are margin, the functions of all these margins. Margin left, you see the space. You can see this space now. You can see it, right? Okay. So that's what all those margins are. Then we also have margin bottom, which is the last margin function. Margin bottom, be margin bottom, whatever. Margin bottom. So margin bottom, let's give it for this margin top. Let's increase our margin top so that when we do the margin bottom, you see it very well. Or better still, let me increase the content. This content. Let me see. I want to increase the content so that when I put the margin bottom, you really notice the difference. Okay, so now margin bottom. I'm going to give it a margin bottom of let's say 100 px. You can see the space now that is here. Eh? When I give it a margin bottom of 100 px, you see that the space will be more than this. So margin bottom, let's say 100 px. Can you see this? The space is now more. It's I even had to scroll down. Sef. The space is now more. So margin left, margin top, margin right, margin bottom, margin left are all the examples of the margins. Like if you want to create a space at the left hand, you can use margin left. Margin left. If you want to create space at the top, you can use margin top. Like depends on the space the value you use depends on the space you want to leave. Okay, so now there's actually a shorthand for this margin. You don't have to. Okay, let me say you want to style everything. You don't want to start writing margin top differently, margin right, margin left, margin bottom. Okay, let me say you want both the space at the top, at the left, at the bottom, at the right to be the same. So it doesn't make sense that you have to start writing margin top 50 px, margin right 50 px, margin left 50 px, margin bottom 50 px. So what you can just do, instead of writing all those things, let me comment this out. I could just write, I could just write margin. I don't have to specify the particular margin. You get? I could just write margin. Instead of writing margin to, like different, and I'll just use 50 px. And now this margin 50 px will now mean that this particular margin is for both the top, the right, the left, the bottom. You don't have to start writing them differently. But it's mostly when the values are different. Okay, you might want to separate them like this. But there's still a short way of also writing if even if the values are different. So this margin now, I've made margin 50 px. Let's see what it looks like. Now, can you see that the space is equal? Let me see. Hope there's no this thing somewhere else. Okay, yeah. You can see that the space is equal. The space at the top, bottom, left, and right are the same. So that's what you could just use margin for that. Instead of writing margin top, margin left, margin, trying to do them separately, it makes your work look very bulky. So, but if you want to do them separately, that's fine also. It's not wrong, but it makes your work look very bulky. Okay. So now, for instance, okay, let me. Okay. So now, say this instance here now. If the margin property has like four values, okay, let me say I write a margin of 50 px, 25 px, 30 px, and let's say 40 px. This is like a shorthand now. Okay, let me use for instance. Okay, this let me use this one I already gave. My margin top here was 50, abi? Margin right 50, okay. Margin left 30, margin bottom 100. Okay, and I decided to just use only margin instead of having to write them out one. So the shorthand is that this first one now, this 50 px is the margin top, this 25 px is the margin right, this 30 px is the margin bottom, and this 40 px is the margin left. So how you actually know, okay, which one is margin left, which one is margin this and all, is that, okay, just try drawing a rectangle. If you want to draw a rectangle, let's say you start from the top, you draw your line from the top. That's your line from the top. Then you now go down, that's it's going down from your right hand side. Then you now from your right hand you're drawing another line towards the bottom, in the bottom, then you now draw another line that's going up at the left hand side. So that's actually how I actually like learnt it, so that you don't get confused. So 50 px is the top, 25 is the right, 30 is the bottom, and 40 is the left. So let me look for a rectangle or something that would be under. Just draw a rectangle in your head or something. Then um, just try drawing a rectangle in your head. Okay, okay. Let me use for instance. Yes, this is a rectangle. Okay. So now, if I just use margin and write the four values without having to separate them, and you don't know which is for which, you don't know which one is for the top or which one is for the bottom or that. So this is a rectangle now. This stuff is a rectangle. I hope you guys can see this. This stuff here is a rectangle. Hmm? So if you're drawing a rectangle now, and you start drawing this line, you draw from here now to this place. This is your top, Abi. Then when you want to, you're still drawing the rectangle. From here now, you're drawing downwards. This is your this is your right hand. From here now, you're drawing in this direction. This is your bottom, and from here you're going up. This is your left hand side. So how you know the value that is for which one? This the top, the right, the bottom, and the left. The top, the right, the bottom, and the left. Okay. So when you see four values like this now, and they not separate it like this to margin right, margin top, this. You just have margin 50 px, 25, 30, 40. You know that this is your top, your right, this 50 is your top, 25 is your right, 30 is your bottom, and your 40 is the margin left. Okay, I think that should be quite explanatory. Okay, so uh then there's a situation where you can just have just three values, like you don't have up to four. So how would you know those three values, which is for which? Okay, see what I just explained now. This 25 is the top, this 50 is the right, 75 is the bottom, and 100 is the left. You could just like be practicing it and all. So now, an instance where we have just, okay, see this example now. We have just three values. You imagine it's just three values. So how would you know which one is missing, which one is for which? So when you just have three values, you just know that this 25 px is the top and the bottom. Is for the top and the bottom. This one now. Okay, wait, sorry. Okay, okay. The 25, when you have three values, that one I was talking about is when you have two values. When you have three values like this, and it's not up to four values, you know that this 25 px is for the top, that the 50 px is for the right and the left, while the 75 px is for the bottom. So 25, when you have three values, the first one is for the top, the second one is for the right, left and right, for the right and left, while the last one is now for the bottom. That's when you have three values instead of four. The first one is for the top, the second one is for the right and the left and right, while the last one is for the bottom margin. So when a situation where you now have two values just like this, 25 px and 50 px, a situation where you have just two values, you know that this one now, this first one is for top and bottom, while this 50 px is for left and right. When you have two values, here now 25 px is for top and bottom, 50 px is for left and the right. So that's how it works. Okay, let me just show you how that works. Okay, here now, let's say I have just two values now. Let's say I have just two values here now. 50 and 25 px. Let's just say I have two values now, 50 and 25 px. So what did I say? That this first one is for the top and the bottom, and this 25 px is for the left and the right. So let's see. So can you see this? The top and the bottom, remember it was 50 px. That's why the space is more like this. Why my left and the right, I just use 25 px. That's why the space is like this. So I guess that's quite explanatory. Okay, so we will move, but that's it for margin. That's it for margin. Then we'll be moving to Padding is just almost the same as margin, the same principle and every just that padding now. Okay, we'll see the difference, yeah. Padding. Let's move to padding. CSS padding. We have that padding is used to create space around an element's content inside of any defined border. In fact, the one would have done borders first so that I could okay, after this padding I'll do border. Then after I'm done with the borders, I can now show you how to differentiate between padding and margin and how to like when to use padding and when to use margin because most times it's usually confusing. So I'll be done with padding, then I'll now move to borders. Then I can now explain how they differ. Okay, so they said padding is used to create space around an element content inside of any defined borders. We've never done borders, so you might not really get it. So, but padding now is still the same principle, the same thing, just that instead of writing margin now, you use padding. You get instead of writing margin, you use padding. Then it also follows that it has padding top, padding right, padding bottom, padding left. You get then that the same principle as margin is just the same thing. Just like instead of using margin, you change it to padding. It's just exactly the same principle. And I will not want to go over all that again. But let me move to borders so that I could now explain padding better. Let me move to borders. Okay, borders. Okay, now for CSS border, we have that CSS border property allows you to specify the width, the style, and the color of an element's border. When you hear of border, you know border is like okay, the border between Nigeria and Cameroon now is that line that is separating Nigeria from Cameroon, right? So border is like what is separating um a HTML element from another, something yeah, something like something of that nature. So we would move into border now. Say the border style property specifies what kind of border to display. Now for borders, we have different types of borders. We have the dotted border, the dashed border, solid, that's the styles of borders, those double groove, ridge, bridge, inset, outset, non, hidden, blah blah blah. Okay, so now I would explain each of the types of borders. But before that, this particular output now does not have a border. The border is invisible. So we'll say that this particular border is border none because there's no border on it. You're not seeing the border. So now let me add a border. Let me reduce this. I want to just use a sentence now. This one so that it won't be too. Let me know. Make it too. Let me just reduce this. Okay, so now I want to put a border here now. I want to start this here now. I want to put a border. So let me remove this. Let me comment out this margin, sure. Okay, I will just completely remove it. Okay, now border. So now I want to put like a border, a style, like a border. First of all, let me start with the border itself. But yeah, now there's it's border none, right? This thing automatically has like a border none because there's no border in it. There you can't see anything that is different. Like see, you can't see any stuff that is separating it. No line that is separating it. So now I'll change this my border none because there are different types of border. I'll now put remember there are different border styles. So it's the border style we are working on. But before then, we said that a border has three properties. A border has like three properties, which is the style, the width, and the color. So before I start the border styles, I would have to talk about the width, the style, and the color. So now border width. border width. Okay, so now for here now I want to add a border width now. Border width. So let me say my border width is 3px. So now I've added a border width. Now let's see what that shows. We can see that nothing is showing yet. 3px. So now let me add, remember there are three properties: the border width, the border style, and the border color. Now let me add color. Border color. Border color. Let me say red. Let me use red. I just like using red. Yeah. Red as my border color. Let's see. It's not still reflecting. It's border with it's border. Let me check something. 1px solid red. Okay, okay. Border color. But let me remove this first. Border color. Then remember the three properties. We have the border width, the border color, the border style. Style usually come the border after the border width, usually the border style. Sha. So the border style now. And I told you there are different styles. We'll look into all the styles one by one. Sha. Border style. This thing it even gives you options. There is dash, there is dotted, there is double, there is groove, there is anyone. So I'll just click on dashed. That's the style I want to use. So this is what my this thing looks like now. Now, can you see this border? It's more like it's wrapping the elements inside it. It's wrapping the elements inside it. So I told you border has three different properties: the border width, the border style, and the border color. So now the border width 3px. 3px, that's why it's of that length. The width, that's why the width is of that length. If I use, let me use 1px now. Let's see what the difference between 1px and 3px now. Remember, it's the border we're talking about. You notice that these my lines were actually longer. Like, okay, let me put that 3px back so that you notice the difference. Sorry. So you can you see these lines that they're actually longer? The width is longer. See it? 3px, 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 like. But now if I change it to 1px, you see that it will be very small. The width will now be small. The width of the line will now be smaller. So that's the border width. 1px. I've changed it to 1px now. You see the difference. You can see that it's the width is now much, much, much smaller. We, we see that. Okay. Then we now have, okay, that's it for border width. The width of the border. You could change, I can even make it 10px. Well, that's too much, yeah. But you could make it any number you want at all. You're the one styling your document to your taste. So see what 10px looks like. Look at how the width is, the width of the border. You see it? Okay. And the style I used was what? Dotted, be dashed. Okay, my border style was dashed. That's why it's like broken lines, kind of, because the style I used was dashed. Now, let me change that my style. Now, there are different styles. Okay, I'll just talk of the styles here because I'll just talk about the styles here. There are different styles. We have dot dashed, we have dotted. Now, let's check this dotted, what it looks like. So see my dotted style now, my dotted border. See it's dotted. So you could just use it to style like your document how you want it. So this is my dotted border. I can yes, there are different styles. We've done dash, we've seen what dash looks like, we've seen what dotted looks like. Let's check for others. There are many others which you could actually still explore later. We have double. Now let's see what double looks like. So this is what double border means, looks like. It's giving us like a double border. It's giving us a double border. Okay, so Yeah, this is double border. There are different border styles, which you can just explore in your own leisure. Then there is one called solid, which is the one that is mostly used. Solid. That one is just like a straight line. It's not stylish and all. See, it's just a straight line. Solid. See it here. And now is this thick because my border width is 10 px. Let me make it 1 px now. You see that it won't be that thick again. So you style it to your taste actually. So I don't know if you can see the line is very thin. 1 px, 1 px is the difference between 1 px and 10 px. Okay, so that's basically it for the border styles. There are so many styles, so many. Okay, let's see another style. We have inset border style. You don't need to cram all these styles, or you could just check them. You don't need, like, we mostly don't even use all of them. You just choose. And one beautiful thing, see, after this border style now, when I put my colon, you see so many other options, like the different styles you could choose from. See all of them. See inset here. There's inset, there's outset, there's none, there's solid, there's onset. So let me check inset. Let's see what it looks like. Inset. Sorry. Let me increase the border width so that it will be very, like what I'm showing you will be very visible. Let me make it 10 px so that it will be visible for you to see. I just, hopefully you're seeing my screen clearly. Okay, so insets now. Let's see what inset looks like. So this is what inset looks like. This design, look at what inset looks like. Then let's try outset. There's inset, there's outset. Let's try outset. Abi? Out the outset. Let me see. Outset, yeah, there's outset. So see what outset looks like. So you could just explore, all of them. Explore. Explore. You can change, okay, that's it for border style. Then border color, you can change it to any color you want. I use red. It can be blue, it can be green, it can be pink. Let's try pink. It can be pink. Even though the pink might not be so. Let's see. Ah, is this pink? Okay, I guess it's pink. This is looking like purple, sha. But just your border color can be anything. You could change it to any color at all. Any color at all. So now we've done border. Let me change this outset. Usually solid. Let me use solid because that's the very common one. So just like margin and padding, you don't have to start writing, border width, border style, border color. You could just enclose all of them in border. You can just write border. Hmm? You can just write border and put all of them. I can now write this 10 px now. 10 px, I'll leave space. Solid, that's my border style. I'll leave space. Pink, then colon. So now, this line I just wrote now is the same thing as all these ones I wrote here. Border width, border style, border color. But it's just that I didn't have to start separating them one by one. Here now, has incorporated all these things. So a border has the width, the style, and the color. So you don't have to start writing border width this, border style this, border color this. You could just write border, then you now write the width first, the style, then the color. So now let me comment this out. You see that it's just exactly the same thing. Just exactly the same thing. See it now. It's just exactly the same thing. So you don't have to start doing it like professionally. You don't have to start writing them one after the other. I did that to explain it better. Then, but you could still do this way, but to make your work not to look um very like bogus. What's the word? Don't make it look very crowded and all. So you just use this complicated. You just make it look simple. So you just use this. So this is the same as this. Okay. So that's it for border. Now you'll be wondering, then what's the difference between padding and margin. I said I was going to explain that after taking border. Okay, so let me give a better instance. Okay, okay. So now this is my element. Let me reduce the sentence. Let me just reduce the sentence. It's plenty. Let me just reduce the sentence a bit. Let's not be too much. Sorry, let me save it. Why is the sentence not going to reduce now? Okay, let me see. This is it now. Try and reduce the sentence. Okay, the sentence. Okay, I guess it has reduced. Okay, now this is our border. Let me use red so that red is more visible. Let me change the color back to red since it's more visible so that it really gets what I'm trying to explain. Yes, red. Okay, and this 10 px is just too much. But okay, sorry. Let me use 5 px. I think that should be okay. Okay, so I guess you can still see the border. Yeah. So for padding now and margin, the difference between padding and margin is that now for padding, the space now that this is my content, this is the border, this line now is the border, and this is my content. For padding now, padding gives a space between this content and my border. You get? It gives a space between my content and my border. But for margin, margin is going to give me space between my border and what any other thing that is outside of my border. So that's the difference. For padding, it gives me space between my content and my border. You know, the border is usually invisible. Like in a you don't go and start adding borders to your document. Like I had to use this thing so I can explain the box model very well. But the border, the margin, all those things are usually invisible. So with this, you understand it better. It gives me space between this my lorem, this my content now, and this border. Okay, let me add padding now to my style so that you see. Let me add padding now. Padding, let's say padding top. Let me say I want to add a padding top. I just want to create space between my content and the top like of my border. Padding top 40 px. So now you see what will happen. You see that it's creating space between this my content and my border. So that's because I use padding top. Okay, remember, okay, let me just use only padding. So now give me space. Remember, if you use only padding, to give it space, equal space, like between both the padding top, the left, the right, and the bottom. So let me remove this padding top and just use padding to give me space on like equal space on all sides. So you can see the usefulness of padding. See now, it gave me equal space between. I now have space here, the top, the left, the right, the bottom. So for padding, it gives me space between my content and my border. Now let's check for margin. Now let's check for margin now. Let me change down my padding now to margin. You will now see the difference. You will see the difference. So can you see this now? Remember, I told you that my margin is giving me space between my border and the outside content, like an outside. So we can see this space now. It's giving me equal space here, equal space here, equal space here, and equal space here. This space is more because like the content is not very long, I know. So padding gives me space between my content and my border, while margin gives space between my border, like the contents, like inside the border, and any other document outside. Okay, let me write something else outside now. Let me go to my index file. Let me write maybe that. Let me put something else. Let me say a another tag. uh Bridget. I'm sorry, no, this isn't Bridget, sorry. Okay. So now, more like I'm trying to say that when I'm using margin now, it's going to give me space between this Bridget and this lorem ipsum. Like it's trying to like give me space between these two things, these two different stuffs. So yes, that's basically it about borders, margins, and all those. Let's see, tenure. That's basically it. That's basically it. That's basically it. Different styles of borders, groove, this. You could always go to W3 schools. You could always go and play around, like still check out all the other border styles that we have. And look at this now. This is what a dotted border looks like, which I showed you. This is what a dash border looks like. Solid border, double border, groove border, ridge border, inside, outside, when there's no border, hidden border. This is just what they all look like. This is basically what they all look like. So that's basically it for CSS and box model. And we started with stylings, the different types of CSS stylings, the inline styling, the internal styling, and the external styling. And we now know the differences between the internal, external, and the inline styling. Inline styling, we said you style it like inline. Since it's inline, you style like for this p tag now, you're styling inside the p tag. I for internal styling, you style in the head, in the like you put your style in the header. Remember, using the style tag, then you can now style whatever you want to style inside the style tag in your header. While for external styling, we say you have to create a style.css file. By clicking here, new file, and write your style.css. Then you click on enter. Then that's for your external styling. You this remember this stuff is always a default, so you just always put it. You always put it. So you always put it. Oh God, I hope that did not affect my. You always put it. So that's basically it. That's basically it. So if there are any questions, if you have any questions at all, oh my God, hope it's not very good. Okay, see again. If there is any question at all, then you could always ask on the WhatsApp group or on the YouTube channel. This is going to be uploaded on the YouTube channel. So that's basically it. And there's something that assignment I gave you guys on the HTML forms. I don't know. I gave you guys links to actually like read up some stuff. So when I gave that assignment, I was like that you should add. Okay, the question was to create a HTML form that has a a first name, last name, password, phone number, and all those. So the input type for password is not text. It's not text, it's password actually. I noticed that many people, a lot of people, just very few people actually wrote input type password. Then the input type for phone number is not text. Your phone number is not text. Phone number is number. It's phone number. It's number. When you're writing your phone number, it's not a text now. It's not text, it's not alphabet. Text is for alphabet. So most of you wrote text and that is wrong. So I just wanted to like, just I'll still like talk about that later. But anytime I send a link, people should just go and read it up because we have limited time and I can't say every single thing within the time that's allotted for the class. So just do well. W3 schools is just a perfect place to learn. Like you can actually be practicing along as you're learning. So just do well to like always refer back to the materials and all this. Okay, so that's basically it for now. Any questions you could always get back to me. You could always say it. Okay, I'll be ending the recording now.